Welcome all to this webinar of Business Central 2024 Wave 2. I am Samuel Champoux. I will be hosting this webinar with you today. We have a new feature activated that you can use, which is a Q&R. So you can ask questions directly in the Teams meeting. So if you do, I will see them and I can answer the questions live. So please do that. So first, I want to state that the new version is not available right now for upgrades. We can create new environments that will be on the new version of Business Central, but we still cannot upgrade current environments. So that's why you didn't receive any emails about the sandboxes and having to do tests on that new version yet, but it should be soon. So I'm expecting that early next week we will probably have something there. So one big change they made this fall for the new version is that we will have 5 months to do the upgrade. Before we had only 60 days, but now we will have until March 1st to do the update. But since we don't want to linger on the old version too long, we wanted to set our own default date to be end of January. So we figured that by that time, you will have enough time to do the testing and all that. And also, if there's any big issues or problems and or timing problem with your company, we can always extend that on a case per case basis. So no stress there. So I will start with the new features. So the first one is something that's been available but will be activated automatically with this new update. So the user groups are becoming permission sets. So if you add training documents or procedures that you made about creating new users and assigning them roles for security purposes, then you will have to update that and change the user groups to be permission sets. So since a few versions of BC, we have had permission sets that can include other permission sets, then user groups don't make sense anymore. So Microsoft decided to remove them. And also because maybe they wanted to be more clear about the differences between user groups and user security groups. So security groups are something that you can set up in Microsoft Entra, so Active Directory. You can have groups there that are reflected into BC. So you can set up the users there, and then they will be in those groups in BC also. So this lets you assign security groups to people via your IT provider or IT personnel. So this is something that's been asked for a while, and it's been available since the last spring update. But right now they'll be removing the user groups to not confuse us with all that. If for those of you that have Gestisoft and you are using the Finance Plus feature, which is limiting user access to financial areas of BC, then you don't have to do anything. The group that was used for it will be transformed to a permission set automatically by Microsoft. And the setting that we use and all the code that's been made to prevent financial access will be updated with a version 25 version of Gestisoft that will make it work with the permission sets. No trouble there. So next we have allow more than one user to post warehouse entries at a time. So this is good for customers that have a lot of warehouse activity. So before this, each user there were only one user at a time that would be able to post warehouse entries because it was using a sequential numbering and it was waiting. So if two people were to post warehouse entries at the same time, it would wait for the first one to finish until the second one could post. So what this means is there were more delays while posting if you had multiple warehouse employees working at the same time. So this new feature that's available and that you need to activate in the feature management screen, it lets more users, so multiple users can post at the same time. So this should make everything quicker and faster for everyone working in the warehouse. So that's a cool new feature that they added there. They added a few, so 5 new reports in the financial reports. Those are like balance sheet and revenue and income statement reporting. It's basically more examples that you can check out and see if there's like row definitions or column definitions or formulas and all that you want to use elsewhere or have new ways of seeing Business Central data. So that's pretty nice. And then we have a whole new module available to manage subscription billing and revenue and expense recognition. So this is a really big module that they added. There's quite a lot of, it's quite extensive. There's a lot of options and menus and windows and all that that you need to use and configure to use that. We will be exploring this internally at Gestisoft, and someone will probably be making a webinar on that this winter to show you how it works and how it can be used. Expect that in the coming months. But this is a pretty big feature, so pretty big new feature available there. Archive service management documents. So we can now archive service quotes and service orders. We couldn't do that before. So it says the same way we can do it now with purchase orders and sales orders. But now we can do it with the service documents also. So that's pretty nice for those of you using service. They added new reports, Excel reports for fixed assets. So if that's something that you use, you may want to check out those new reports and see if they have any value to what you're doing right now with fixed assets. Some new analysis details and projected value reports that are available now in the new version. And then we have extended text for planning, project planning lines. For those of you that don't know about extended text, it's a feature that lets you automatically add comment text under an item. So you find extended text in the item card. So you can set up for an item that, say, when you add it to a purchase order, each time I add this item, I want this note to appear below that item. And you can have different text that you configure there. And so what they added is that you can now add them also in project planning lines. So it's a new area where you can use extended text. Use a default quantity of 1 for accounts on documents. So this is for GL accounts. So when you are entering GL account lines in, say, a sales invoice. So with this option, you would not have to set the quantity to 1. It would be set automatically by the system. So just a way of being more quick with entering data in those kind of situations. Replenish items for projects. They added a new function that lets you create purchase orders from items that are in projects planning lines. So if it will detect what items are needed, are not in stock, and it will create purchase orders for those. So it's like a mini MRP, I would say, which lets you create purchase orders for items that are in a project. So that's quite nice. I use directed put away and pick warehouses with projects. They added a few versions ago that you could do pickings and put aways from projects. So now you can do directed picks with projects. So you can use the project setting warehouse pick mandatory and use the directed put away and pick checkbox on the location card, and that will let you use create picks that are directed for those projects. We have a new Copilot feature which will let you add sales lines based on text and files. So the first option is so this will bring a Copilot prompt where you can input text, or it can be a list that someone sent you by email, or it can be something that you copy and paste from a web page or something like that. You put that there, and the AI is Copilot is going to try to figure out what the lines should be. So just note that since this is AI, it's dependent on a lot of factors. So it can have ways of figuring what you entered, and I can make some special results. But if you have something simple, it can be quite fun to use. The second option is actually from a file. So you could have a CSV file or an XML file that you have of things that a customer want to buy, and so you input that into the system, and Copilot is going to try to figure out all the sales lines from that file. So it could be useful. Another new feature with Copilot, this one is to automatically create analysis views. So when you are in a list, you can use the analysis view and do like pivot tables and like sums and all that. They added at the bottom, you can use the Copilot icon, and it brings you this prompt where you can say what you want. And keep in mind that with the AI, what you ask the AI to do, you must ask things that you would be able to do if you do it manually in the system. You can't, so it can't do magic. So if you ask something that you can't even do yourself in the system, it won't be able to do it. So if you ask for things that you could set up in the analysis view yourself, then it's going to be able to set that up for you. I guess it would be more quick than trying to do it manually if you know what you want, right? So this one is actually what I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar about updates being 5 months. But another thing I didn't mention is that minor updates are now optional. So after V25, we'll be able to set the minor updates to be optional. So what that means is that instead of applying automatically each month, then you could say, I have tested this version. I want the system to stay this version and set it that way. And if there's anything that's not working as you wanted to, and or you asked us and we tell you that there's an update that would fix a problem, then you update the minor updates so that you would be able to go directly from v25.0 to 26, say at the next fall or spring, I would say. This is something that wasn't possible before. You had, I think, 2 or 3 weeks to update to each minor versions each month. But yeah, so new way of handling updates. They have a new feature to set up notifications when a job queue fails. So this is quite interesting. So if you go into the assisted setup page, you can find this one, which is setup job queue notifications. You can have it notify the user who runs the job queue, or notify job queue notification administrators that you put in the list there, and they will be notified if there's problems with the job queues. So the user that you put there, they must have emails, right? If they don't, that won't work. And then, yeah, so they will be notified when job queues fails. So that's quite interesting. If you have Gestisoft, we have added a similar feature last spring, which is that we have a tile on the home page of BC, which becomes red when one of the critical job queue fails. So I guess the difference here is that this will notify you by email of anything that goes wrong, but the Gogest one is going to let you know when a job queue fails that you have set to be a critical job queue. So we have a checkbox that says critical job queue, and if that one fails, say the currency of the job queue fails, then it will become red on your home page so that you can be notified about it. Next, they added a bunch of Power BI reports. I haven't found where or what they are exactly, but they added like a bunch of reports in finance, sales, purchasing, inventory, in manufacturing, and projects. Those will be available in the system, and you can find them in the menus related to each section. I tried to find some of them in the French webinar this morning, but I couldn't find any. It's yeah, they are well hidden, or maybe they weren't there yet. But anyways, so they have added a bunch of reports. I hope we can find them some point. Change the data search method. So they added a new way of doing search. So when you use the magnifying glass in a list, the new modern search is faster and it can use more features like adding quotes so that it searches for the whole sentence instead of each word individually. And if you want to use the modern search by default, you need to activate it in the feature management. So like we have here at the bottom. And in each page, you can, so it will be using the default, which is legacy search if you haven't activated the feature management yet. But you can still click on the down arrow there in the search, and with that down arrow, it will let you use one or the other so that you can test which one you like the most. And I think that's it for the new features. So thank you everyone for assisting and being there, and see you soon. Thank you.